Hi, I'm Natasha Chetiyawardana, Chair of the Drum Design Awards. This year, we wanted to change things up and we wanted to think about the design industry differently. This means you'll see judges from different backgrounds, different points of view, and the diversity of the judges means we won't all agree or collude with each other, but we want to get lots of different perspectives and work with each other to make the industry better. We also aren't a chest beating bunch. So instead of doing a meet the chair speech by the editorial team, we've decided we're going to do a series of interviews with the judges being interviewed by some of their mentees. All of us are dedicated to paying it forward to the industry, including, of course, mentoring. So what better way to bring that to life than being interviewed by some of our mentees? So I wanted to introduce Masha, a brilliant design and digital product expert from Bow and Arrow, who is hours away from maternity leave.
So today I have a couple of questions to you about yourself. So you're my mentor, and I just want to know a little bit more about you, Jenny. You are an aspirational leader, coach, and mother, and I admire how real you are all the time and your positive energy. The big question that bothers me is that what did it take to become who you are, and what are your key life lessons?
Okay, so all of the nice things you just said about me weren't true before. I definitely didn't used to be like that. When I was younger, I had no mentors, certainly no women that I could look up to at work. So I didn't have that stuff modeled for me. And getting into design leadership when I was young in New York, I made a lot of mistakes. Considering I didn't have that stuff in front of me, that is unsurprising. I realized that I had a lot to learn, and I especially needed to learn to trust. I was the biggest micromanager out there because I was used to doing all the doing, looking at the details myself. And you saw that a lot back then. I think I'd like to know, I mean, you might see this as well, is a lot of people become creative directors because they're brilliant at the work. That doesn't necessarily make them brilliant creative leaders. Equally, now you do see a lot of design leaders that are not practitioners, but great leaders. I think there's room for both. The lessons was I spent a lot of time at different agencies, especially in New York. And what I learned was what I didn't want and what I thought didn't work. And most of that was around culture and leadership. So a lot of those ideas came from frustration of knowing what I didn't want versus modeling. And one of the things that became very important to me was around creative cultures and working smart, not working people into the ground. That was a big lesson. And another was seeing all these insanely creative designers in the back room. And they were treated like they were ticking time bombs that you couldn't put in front of a client because who knows what they might say. And the only reason I got out of that is because I was in New York. I have a British accent, and instinctively, I'm just not scared of people. So I seemed cleverer than I actually was. And I was unusually put forward to talk over the traditional account people. So my key lesson or desire was about getting designers from the back room to the boardroom, especially the young ones. And that's what I set out to do with Bow and Arrow.
The next question, Natasha, is actually, I've noticed you have a very unique leadership style. How did you find your way to lead, and what advice would you give to anyone who is looking for their own leadership style?
Yeah, I definitely learned the hard way. I came into leadership properly when we were starting the business. So I had to learn and unlearn very quickly at the same time whilst we were doing the startup. Oh, it was tough. And my business partner, Ben, who obviously you know very well, taught me a lot. I had put up a lot of barriers. His twin called me the professional. I thought, especially when I was young, I needed to be a certain kind of person to be in leadership. So formal, professional, proper, buttoned up. He actually laughed at me just today saying, oh, where did you put that leather briefcase thingy that you had? And I used to wear trouser suits and shirts to make myself seem more legit, older, more experienced, and like everyone else was a man around me. So I tried to blend in, and I was sure from my experience that I needed to appease people in the room, who might think, oh, she's really young, or she's just a designer. What does she know? I'm a woman and I stand out. And it took time to learn to be myself, to take those barriers and the protection down, to unlearn a lot of stuff, even at 28, which seems too young to unlearn a lot of stuff, but I did. It got pretty ingrained by then, and I wanted to be taken seriously. So my advice following that is to focus on your strengths, augment your strengths. Don't try and be everything. Knowing your weaknesses is key. Chances are that there are people around you that balance that stuff out. And so if you focus on your strengths, who you really are as a person versus what you think you should be, and you're not trying to do and be everything, because that's really stressful and unrewarding. And it took a lot of conscious unlearning to get to really being myself in an unapologetic way. I'm still working on it. It's definitely not done.
Yeah, being unapologetically myself is something that I keep learning from you. Another question that I have to you is slightly more about work and work environment. Do you think that we can trace good design to like a good work environment and a good setup for designers?
Unfortunately, sometimes I don't think you can. I think the industry is so used to working people to the bone, and people have continued to do that. For some people, it's got better working from home. For some people, it's got worse. I think you can tell when people are in a good working environment, not just because they're producing brilliant work, but they stay in that place for a long time. I don't believe this whole millennials are fickle and work shy stuff. I think we've become a bit obsessed with labeling. I don't buy this one. It's not my experience. I don't think it's your experience either, Masha. A good working environment does create brilliant work, but almost more importantly, or as importantly, it creates a culture where people help each other, that they're not competing against each other to do the best work and get the credit for it. They're helping each other to be strong and well mentally as well, and not breaking people, which I think in turn enables people to stay longer. It enables better client relationships and therefore better work. And because employees are now calling it out, not accepting that stuff that they used to accept before, clients listen to that too. You can't get away with it anymore. So I think if people aren't scared of their bosses, their environment, their clients, they'll create better work because they know their client deeply, and therefore they're able to challenge the client and create better work and to disrupt the industry they're in. It sounds really obvious, but I don't think it happens that often.
We talked a lot about female leaders, and we know that like sometimes female professionals and leaders fall victim of like not like very good cultures, and it is not a secret they're like underrepresented in the industry. Why do you think in 2022 it's still the case? Like what needs to change?
Yeah, it is unfortunate that it is still like that. It's why I'm so proud of this jury. There are actually more women than men. And although that's not representative, I think it can, in its own way, try and help drive that change and highlight the inequality. It does feel like the industry is getting better because it's being talked about. It wasn't a thing you talked about before. And that's not just by agencies, but with clients. And like I said before, they won't accept it. Homogeneity is less acceptable. So I think that's when industry and business listens. If a client says there are no women on this team or no people of color, then business has to listen and respond. In terms of what needs to change, clients should keep doing that. And the other one I imagine is probably coming from me, which is around equal parenting. I think that until men start taking up parental leave without fear of recrimination or judgment in their workplaces, until they pick up the kids when they are sick, and the schools and the nurseries don't just call the mothers, and men demonstrate their equal parenting and talk about it, are visible about it, the system will keep falling to women to get around full-time work and childcare. I also think that flexible working and the surge around that, especially for all genders, is helping here. So maybe I'm being a bit optimistic, but I do feel like we're on a cusp of change.
Yeah, definitely. I 100% on for the equal parenting and like
I thought you might be.
calling dads when kids are sick, not only moms. We like have both parents responsible, right? So in terms, just carry on with this theme. Many companies for years and years been talking about work-life balance, but obviously like things really changed. So do you think that we need to rethink how we view work-life balance and like just look at it for different lens in 2022?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you and I have talked about this quite a bit in our catch-ups. I believe that the she can have it all, or it should be they can have it all, is a fallacy. The 40-hour work week was designed around someone who was not also looking after children, putting food on the table at the same time, or actively and consciously parenting their kids, which we all want to do now. So I think we need to readdress what work-life balance is. I know that's on your mind, Masha, having you're 9 months pregnant with your second child. We've talked about your situation, and I think you need to know what your own situation is in particular, and what you need to do, what your partner needs to do, what works for your family in particular, not families in general. You and I are quite atypical mothers with atypical husbands who also happen to be designers, which is quite an unusual thing. And we need to work out what works for us in particular and let go of that maternal guilt that the mother should do it all and want to do it all. Otherwise, you're a bad mother, aren't you? And what I think we worked out, or helped each other to work out, is that we are better parents if we are working on the stuff we like doing, with no shame attached to it. I know, again, I'm still working on that. I really feel that we should ban this trope of she should do it all, because I think that's the key to misery. She shouldn't. I think employers need to take heed of this. We need to work with people. We need, as employers, to work with people flexibly for their own particular situation and not pretend it's not a thing. We need to be human and compassionate and flexible. And I think that's the future. I think that's the future, not free breakfasts. I think it's understanding what each person needs individually.
Yeah, definitely. And I already seen lots of changes at the bow and arrow that happened recently around those lines. And yeah, 100% agree with you. You've given so many talks on diversity and inclusion, and you're also like a big advocate on this topic. Can you explain why you're so passionate and important about, like, why you think those topics are important?
Because unfortunately, the issue is still really real. It is day to day. It's in work, it's in education, it's in everything we know. But again, the optimism in me, the world has changed so much in the last 2 years. It has woken up to the injustices that the lack of I&D has caused. And the major thing, again, for me, this is the big thing, is that people are talking about it. And it used to be that it was talked about behind closed doors, but not openly. And I cannot tell you, this feels revolutionary to me. I've never experienced anything like this at work. The only thing I felt I could do when I was younger was to blend in, not make a fuss, or stand out. That was the way you got ahead if you were a minority. Or if you even, I mean, Rafi Sakaria's book on being a white woman back in the days of trying to assimilate and become like the men, it's hopefully not like that anymore. And I feel a duty to talk about it now, because I felt like being in a minority in many ways, not everything, but in many ways, the only woman, the only designer, often the youngest person in the room, the emotional strain and the imposter syndrome that was felt around that. If I can help just a few people overcome that, if I can help raise awareness or make it better for others, I mean, I just can't not do that. It's too important. The world of work is hard enough, and the creative industries are so hard to break into anyway, which is why we don't see enough people of color or women in leadership, that I feel like it's sort of my duty to do that. You know, you and I talked about this at the end of last year as well. I had a miscarriage and no one talked about it. I hadn't heard anyone talk about it at work. And I felt like I should, even though there was no precedent and I didn't know how to talk about it. I felt like I needed to, because maybe you've gone through that. Maybe somebody else has gone through that we work with. Unless I talk about it openly, I'm not setting the precedent for that conversation.
Yeah, 100%. Like even starting conversation about like hard topics like that, and it's important. But going from conversation to action, it's interesting. How can we bring this diversity and inclusion consideration to our design process? It's like this is in our power. And can you bring any examples of innovative or unique design solutions that were based on those considerations?
Yeah, well, I like action, not just theory. So yes, this is really important. And I would say you've taught me more about this than I've taught you. You are constantly bringing in new stuff that you see and find into the team. And I really appreciate it. You're really good at finding that stuff to change our way of designing, seeing, practicing. You showed us accessible color palettes the other day. You're always thinking about it and you're not taking it for granted, which I really appreciate and I'm inspired by. Equally, I've already learned a lot from the judges who are sharing their ideas, from Black created typography to diverse stock photography to challenging the elite UX and elite UI design. This is so important, from the people that create the work to testing, recruitment of customers, and the design itself. It's so easy to create an unintentional bubble that ends up being exclusive or exclusionary. So I'm learning a lot from you, Masha. I'm learning a lot from the judges, particularly Ritesh Gupta, who is the founder of the Useful School, and that is for bringing people of color into the creative industries, which is just a brilliant, brilliant project and initiative. And then someone who is just fantastic at looking at the issue of exclusivity is Howard Pyle, who is leading the charge in this field on Experience Futures. That's his new company, which is pioneering digital equity through design. And I heard him talk at Web Summit last year with his friend Amit Sen from the UN. I was so inspired. And he envisioned a world where every single person has a fair, equitable access to technology and a personalized digital experience that's adapted to their individual needs. And we need more people in leadership like this that consider these needs. So I'm thrilled that they've joined us on the jury alongside many others, but I'm hoping I will learn more from them.
What perspective the jury will bring to Drama Awards, how it will change it, and what those who just come into the industry starting their way will learn from their insights.
I hope for a start that people coming into the industry see a panel like this and see people that look like them that they can aspire to. That is really the main thing. I've worked really hard on finding the jury, but it's really important to me to challenge the industry through that, not just represent it. The industry leadership is not necessarily what this jury looks like, but it should be. We should have more people of color. We should have different genders at the top. And we're already seeing that difference amongst the jury. We just had a kickoff, and just getting to know each other, because this is not a group of people that knows each other already. This is not an established group of people. And already we got a sense of challenge, of purpose, of delving into deep issues, but then also sharing knowledge. And that's given me, again, that sense of optimism for the future. It's a real sense of we are in it together from this jury, versus a load of people with big egos trying to shout the loudest. Now, that might sound obvious, but usually when you get people at the top of their game in one room, it gets pretty loud. It gets pretty, there's a lot of egos bouncing off the walls, and that's not the case here. So I think seeing that humanity, that accessibility and honesty from a jury like this, I hope that will be an inspiration for people coming into the industry. It already feels different to me.
It seems like you're on a very positive trajectory here with that mission, Natasha. Good luck.
Thank you. Watch this space.